it fits in with the number of meditations and it just gives enough space. 4 is not quite enough. So it's really nice to have the 5 sessions. So again, welcome. Thank you all for joining. And let's take a moment to just start with our posture. And before I go into the 7-point posture, I'd just like you to sit in a comfortable position right now. We're just going to slowly work our way in. And you may be new to meditation, which is perfect. And you may be an experienced meditator. So it doesn't matter, because I find sometimes I like to do a beginning course again to refresh my mind with the basics. And often I find a number of things I've forgotten. So I like the fact that a lot of things are repeated in our tradition, and I find it really helpful. Because some of you may not even be aware of what you had for breakfast this morning, right? So we need that reminder. We need the reminder. Okay. So as you're sitting comfortably, and you can sit in a chair to meditate. If you are, have your feet planted on the floor flat, so the legs not crossed in that position. If you are seated on a cushion, you could be in any cross-legged position that works for you, as long as it supports your spine being held erectly, as if the back is straight. So the spine very extended, but whatever's comfortable for you. Try different cushions to prop up on, and you can experiment over time. And as you do this, just lightly close your eyes and let the activities of the day flow through you without your holding on to them. As you slowly begin to deepen your respiration. And one of our meditations with this class is scanning the body. Scanning the body. So I may use a slightly different version of the meditation, but there are handouts that are online, basically a corresponding meditation, and you can access that and try that at different times. So that one is often scanning from your base of your legs or the cushion up. I'm going to start scanning from your crown. And it really doesn't matter how you start, but we're just going to try to bring ourselves into a more relaxed place by letting go any tension we find we're holding. As you keep aware of the breath moving through your system. So focus now on the very crown of your head, very top. And as you move down through your face and the sides of your head, the back of your head, allow every inhalation to move space into those places, and allow an exhalation to release any tension you find you're holding. So relax your brow, your cheeks, and your jaw. In the jaw, we store a lot of tension. Relax the back and the sides of your face around your ears. Relax your ears. Relax the neck and shoulders where we store a lot of tension. And focusing now on your arms, wrists, hands, fingers. Relax them as much as possible. Relax your chest and your back. Moving down through your waist and hips. And pay attention to your buttocks. We sit a lot during the day. There's stress in there, in those sitting bones. So inhalation, open up some space there, especially the lower back too. Can get constricted. And again, that exhalation, just letting go. And moving down through the thighs, down into the legs through the knees, all the components of the legs, the shins, the calves, relaxing there as much as possible. And imagine that tension releasing through the ankles and moving around the heel of the foot as we relax our feet and letting that tension move out our toes. So relaxation is a very important part of meditation we often skip. We jump into a posture, close our eyes, and think we should be very concentrated. That whatever we're focused on will work perfectly. Let's be realistic. We have to give ourselves space to transition from that more external world and its activities to our inner world. And as you consider the inner world, another very important component is to set our motivation, to set a positive, as much as possible, motivation. So, this is our orienting our mind in a good direction to make the most of the sitting time. But we can set a motivation before any activity we do to make it more uplifting. If our motivation is directed in a great way. So, motivation helps us harness the energy of our mind rather than letting distraction take our mind in a certain way out of our control. This helps us control our mind, to quiet our mind. So, if you'd like to focus on perhaps the biggest wish you might have, whatever that is, what lends happiness to you? It's okay to continue to be exploring about that. In our tradition in Tibetan Buddhism, What we often find lends meaning and happiness to our experiences is the idea of helping as many beings as possible. So you'd have to check that for yourself if that works for you. But just think about that, helping as many beings as possible. If you're a Buddha, a fully enlightened being, then you can help all beings perfectly. You're fully empowered to do that. Okay? In our current capacity, we're often limited. So just think, if you could reach a place like that, imagine not only the blissful state of your mind continually, but think about the benefit you could lend to all living beings. So if that's a motivation that resonates with you, feel free to include that in your motivation for our time this evening and all the activities of the rest of your day. And just set that motivation right now. Just rest the mind on the breath, a normal, natural breath. There's nothing to expect right now. There's nothing to do perfectly. You're just simply being with your breath, watching, observing when you've lost the breath for a moment and you've wandered off after a thought. It's quite natural. So let go judgment. Let go it having to be a certain way. Simply observe. Return your mind to the breath and allow yourself to be as much as you can to be in meditation. It may help you focus more if you'd like to focus on the air as it comes in your nostrils. Notice the expansion of the lungs, perhaps shift of the abdomen. Upon an exhalation, the contraction of that, the air up and through the nostrils and back out. You just focus on that. And eventually, instead of maneuvering through that breathing, the body is breathing anyway. It's automatic. That's our health. So as you let go a little bit more, the mind is just resting there. It's natural. It's as if the body is breathing you. And just let it be. You just stay focused there in that experience. And slowly bring your mind back to the space where you are. And just relax. And slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes. And just observe for a moment, just coming out of the brief meditation, just observing whatever arises. Let's fine tune a little bit. Meditation posture. This is just one posture that is recommended in our tradition as being very effective for meditation. There are many meditation postures. Okay, but this one does seem to be quite effective. And of course, you can make adjustments. And it's called the 7-point Vairocana posture, or 7-point Vairocana posture. Vairocana simply is one of the Buddha families, one of the 5 Buddha families. He's normally white in color, and he represents our form. What is the form? So this is our form of meditation, our posture. Okay? There's 7 main points to this. And it starts with the back as if the spine, we know the spine is not straight, but we hold our spine erect. So as if the back is straight. The spine as extended as possible. Okay. And one thing Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, as if your sides are long. Okay. I remember once in a meditation, I'm just showing you, and he pointed and he said, as if your sides. So when you, like often we're focused on our back in meditation, but when you think of the extension of your sides, okay, that automatically has you sitting up straight. So that really helped me. And the interesting thing was, as some of you have heard this before, this was in a retreat a few years ago. And when Rinpoche started to say this 7-point Vairocana posture that he was going to explain, a part of my mind shut down saying, oh, I already know that. I already know that posture. That's like a preliminary teaching on meditation. Okay. So this was a huge lesson for me, as I've heard this lesson many times. There's always something left to be revealed that we can learn. You know, every time I hear the same teaching over again, I get something out of it. I hear a new thing. My mind's a little awake for that particular moment that I wasn't paying attention before. Okay. So fortunately, another part of my mind tuned in, and it was as if I'd never heard this teaching before about the 7-point Vairocana posture. Okay, so we first want to get the spine oriented in that extended way with the sides long. It's number 1. Number 2, the position of the legs. That's your foundation. So the standard meditation posture would be something called what we call full lotus position. And sometimes when there's 2 deities, I think the woman's in the lotus, but the female's in the lotus position. The male might be in what they call the Vajra position. But basically, we know full lotus is where you have your opposing foot on the opposite thigh. Okay. Now that's very hard for a lot of people to get into. We're not that flexible in the hips, but from yoga and stretching, you can slowly get yourself into that posture. The body starts to get familiar. So it's not necessary to get in that posture. You could do a half lotus with one leg up and the other one just in front. You can change that up once in a while so the body gets balanced. There's a Burmese posture with one leg in front of the other. Whoops. One leg in front of the other. Okay. So there's various cross-legged, and the main, cross-legged way that we learned as kids, all of those are fine. As long as you feel comfortable, supported, and at any time in meditation, feel free to adjust. So we have these rigid ideas, meditation is this, and if I'm not concentrating, I'm a lousy meditator. And that's why that relaxing part for me is one of the most important parts, meditation. We forget that. You jump in from your busy day, you have an idea that you want to meditate, sit down, plunge down on a cushion or on a seat, and expecting your mind to just be peaceful and with the universe. It's not realistic. Give yourself the space for the transition, coming back from work, coming back from the supermarket. I'm coming out of that conversation with my family, with my kids, and now slowly it's the same thing. Those of you go to work and there's that adjustment the first 5 to 10 minutes. I'm now at work. I'm now in the supermarket. I am now in the car. You give yourself the space to be present in those spaces. This is what I'm doing now, meditation. Slowly give the body time to settle down and adjust the posture. Okay. So if you're seated in a chair, No problem. Have the feet flat, and the feet can be supported on a cushion or a block if that makes the hips better, because chairs are often for very tall people. So whatever that's comfortable, or have them flat on the floor so the legs are not crossed. When the legs are straight down, the body's more balanced. And feel that grounding, either your seat on a cushion or your feet on the floor. Very nice grounding in meditation. I'm here now in my meditation posture. It's kind of a signal for the mind. And then so that's the position of the legs. Position of the hands. The hands are face up, palm face up with the right palm on the left. They're at the level of the navel, right against the body, with the thumbs pressed together, forming a small triangle, right at the navel. Okay, to the point where the arms actually stick out. Okay, so these arms represent like the wings of the bird to get enlightened. Okay, my right arm representing method, the male side, bodhicitta. Okay, compassion, the compassionate attitude. Okay, the left side is wisdom, the female. Okay, the wisdom related to the wisdom realizing emptiness, our view. So here I have method, wisdom. These are the two wings of the bird that we need to fly to enlightenment. The two main pillars there. The triangle is representative of completion stage practices, very high tantric practices, using the subtle energy system in your body. Okay. And the thumbs actually are pressed together. And the reason is with that subtle energy system in the body, there are subtle veins and subtle channels that move. And one of the channels happens to move right down the center of the palm of the thumb. So when we actually press the thumbs together, one Lama had said it opens the heart chakra, the energy center, or the wheel at the heart. Not the heart, the organ, but again, that subtle energy system. And the other thing is, as it closes those subtle channels, okay, it a little bit starts to lessen delusion in your mind. Again, palms face up, right on the left, press together. So this is a dynamic posture. Dynamic, keeps the mind alert. What happens is, and you'll notice yourself, people put their hands down. They put them down in their lap because the shoulders initially feel a little tweaked. You want to make sure your shoulder blades go down your back, even if the arms are extended. And the reason is when I drop my hands, sometimes I start slouching if the hands are in the lap, but you experiment. So maybe you can lower the arms a little bit, but otherwise try it dynamically at the navel level. And again, you can always adjust. Just giving some overall general suggestions. Position of the head. Okay, subdued, slightly tipped forward. If you're up here, you get a lot of distraction. And I've seen people meditating. Okay, a lot of distraction will come through. Okay, if you're down too much like this, drowsiness comes. So it's subdued. So the neck, for the most part, is comfortable, not tweaked. You want to make sure the jaw, lips are relaxed. The lips are lightly together. Comfortable. The teeth are slightly apart. The tongue is curled to touch the upper palate in the mouth behind the front teeth, which tends to cut down on the production of saliva in your mouth. So you're not swallowing a lot, which can be a distraction in meditation. And the eyes are lightly closed or slightly opened, focused towards the tip of the nose or the floor in the space in front of you. So let's be practical with our eyes. If you're very distracted, I would close the eyes lightly. If you're drowsy, I would open them slightly and let a little bit of light in. 7-point Varachana posture. So just sit for a moment in this posture, adjusting whatever you need to adjust. And once again, as we do this, let's bring our awareness to our breath and just experimenting now in this posture. And if it's helpful for you to stay more focused, another meditation accompanying this course is counting the breaths. Each inhalation, each exhalation is counted as one. So see how far you can count before your mind wanders off the breath. If it does, just become aware and return your awareness to the breath and begin counting again at one. There's no competition here. It's simply to keep your mind more focused. So please relax. Slowly open your eyes. So I also want to point you to, in the chat, Sunny has posted the materials for the class. She has the password there as well, in case you don't have that. So please have a look, because you'll get much more out of this class if you're able to do some of these meditations during the week. I would really recommend. So I know some of you would like to start a meditation practice. Some of you are working to get one going more consistently or to refresh a practice. that you've gotten away from, perfect. Okay. But it's practice, and that means we have to do it. And the more we do it regularly, our mind becomes familiar with doing it. And then it gets easier. Really does. I know it's not easy to do. So right now we have some situations, become familiar with the posture. Okay, this is recorded. So you can go back over the recording. Get familiar so that you know that 7-point posture like that. Marianne, it looks like she's posted it up above, the materials for the course. Yeah, so hope you can access that. Thanks, Sunny.
You can't see it after, if she came after I posted it, she wouldn't be able to see it.
Okay, great.
So I posted it again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So again, so meditation in Tibetan, gom is the word Gom, gom. It doesn't mean meditation really. It means familiarize, habituate. So meditation is a practice to familiarize our mind with virtue, virtuous mind states. And that's what makes meditation a bit different than just plain relaxation. So meditation can be very relaxing. There are mindfulness meditations and other meditations, and we will do some of them in this course, that help us relax and de-stress. I do find meditation as a whole helps me to do that. There's something about that feeling of getting on your cushion. You know, like this is my time now. I'm just gonna let all those external things go for the moment, like that. Not escaping, but sometimes on the cushion, I'm figuring out how to do the problems that are coming up in a better way, to deal with them in a better way. Okay. So again, familiarization, and that's why we often call it practice, meditation practice. Many of you are very skilled at some things, whether it's cooking, playing an instrument, athletics, something you trained maybe when you were younger or maybe now, and you're good at it because you did it over and over. So we're familiar with that. We know what that's like. Okay. The issue that's going on for people now, I find in the world, and some of my friends who've been at this longer than me, we've been talking about when you're teaching and people are a bit distracted, is we're overly familiar with something that looks like this. Okay. We're overly familiar with our devices and our phones and all those things they represent. And you notice how that's what people are reaching for quickly. That's what they're focused on. You've been at restaurants and you'll see, a number of people at one table together eating, and they're all looking at their phones, right? So what we want to do is get that pattern, that familiarization going with our mind. How's our mind working and functioning? So the difference with meditation and relaxation will offer you a real temporary composure, a temporary release from a problem, maybe a pain in the body, maybe anxiety in the mind for a moment. There'll be some temporary relief for the moment when I'm relaxing. People do relaxation tapes that they're listening to. Okay, for instance, they might be hearing the waves lapping at the shore and find that very relaxing. Hearing bird, like right now, I've got all the birds start tweeting, and it's very relaxing sound. It doesn't irritate me in any way. So you have those kind of devices that we use, and a lot of people have meditation apps on their phone. That's great, right? So there is a relaxation level, okay? But meditation's going to take us to a deeper level, okay? That's going to be longer lasting, helping us to sort out some longer issues in the mind as we get into different types of meditation, like that. Okay. So let me also introduce now. So what I'd like you to do this week, if you very much could, the 7-point posture. Experiment with that and become familiar with the 7 points. Because sometimes you sit and you go, I'm in the posture, everything's great. And then you realize that, well, my lips really weren't in the right position, or actually my hands weren't in the right position. I forgot that one, or I forgot what level the head's supposed to be at, and you're forgetting one of the points. Okay. And you can experiment with full lotus position, half lotus, slowly. Sometimes when I was trying lotus position early on is I could do it for 5 minutes and then I would relax and just go into a cross-legged posture. And then I'd give myself 10 or 15 minutes and then try it again for a little bit so that the hips kind of got used to, so I could hold it for longer and longer periods of time. The reason some people like full lotus position, okay, is when you're doing shine, which we are going to practice some of that in these sessions. Shine is a Tibetan word for calm abiding, which is which is usually what we think of as meditation, meaning I'm placing my mind on an object and I'm keeping it there stably. My mind is abiding on that object. It's staying there on the object. I think the deer are coming out of the woods right now. And I did hear something, a rumor in my neighborhood here. I live in between about 9 children. I love all of them, but it can get a lot, and they're always running through the backyard, and I love them, but sometimes, and I'm teaching all weekend, so it can get really noisy if I have the windows open, which I kind of like. I heard a rumor that several of them are going to the Pocono Mountains for the weekend. So I'm not only excited for me, I'm very excited for them. So because they're very excited, and it's a perfect weekend for it because it's going to be sunny and hot. So I'm really happy for them to get away and have a break. Okay. So slowly, working on this posture to get so familiar with the posture that you, after a while, you don't need to go through the 7 points. You're like, I've got, and you're feeling more and more comfortable with it. Again, the more you can try to practice this week, if you can even get 10 minutes a day, if you're new to this, 10, 15 minutes a day, whichever time of the day works for you. Okay. So here's something I'll let you in on this weekend. If you're not working, if you're a Monday through Friday worker, I know some of you may be working on the weekend. If you have the leisure in your life, which to a degree the pandemic has, it's hard to say it's afforded us that freedom, but meaning some of you working at home can choose when you're working at home. Now, you don't have to go to an office, even though that's starting to change. So what I was meaning is you can experiment with different times of the day that may work better for you. It's another thing I wanted to mention. Okay. So people have this idea they need to get up at 5 a.m. but they're really not a morning person. So I wouldn't recommend then, if that's a time you're falling asleep, it depends when you go to bed at night too. If you go to bed at 1 a.m., 5 a.m. is not really enough sleep. Okay. Unless you're planning to have a long nap later. Okay. So be realistic with yourself. Be realistic, and you can experiment with different times of the day. You will notice that sometimes there is a time of the day that you feel more centered, more awake, more focused. And you like that. You know, it could be 11 in the morning, it could be 4 in the afternoon, and you might be able to meditate both of those times if it works for you. A lot of people have clarity in the morning. So I really like to get some of my practice done in the morning that includes more formal meditation along with mantra recitation, visualizations, different prayers I have to do and practices that include meditation as well. And I like to get some of it done in the morning, but I also like to do some of it at night. So different. And then if I get some time in the middle of the day, other times of the day, suddenly have some space, I might do some more. It depends how busy the day is like that. So do experiment with times of the day. The other thing is to please have patience with yourself. Lifelong, not just for this course, please have patience with yourself. Number one, as you're setting up a practice. Number two, as you're continuing the practice and building the practice. And three, throughout your lifetime, because the practice plateaus at times and you get bored and tired, right? And you want something new and exciting. And that's what we often want, especially people in the States. So we have to go the distance and realize you are planting seeds for many, many lifetimes. If you happen to believe in reincarnation, not everyone does, but in any event, you're planting seeds in this lifetime that can lend to a rich, consistent practice now. But it takes patience. And so the patience is related to that one day you sit and everything's going really well and you feel really great and you it's very nice to leave your cushion, meaning whether it's a cushion on the floor or a chair, leave the practice at a time when it's going well, that you are attracted to go back there to that practice, as opposed to sitting for too long where you're trying to force it, pushing it, squeezing your mind, and your concentration keeps flying off, not working that well. Let it go. And just if you need to stop early, stop early. Okay. So that's skillful means in your practice. That's using your maturity in the practice, your wisdom of, I don't feel well today, I have a sore throat. So I think I'll just do a little bit less today. Okay. You don't want to make too many excuses though. You want to find the balance. So meditation will take effort. For some of you, it's not familiar at all. So it's like a whole opening a door into a whole new room. And suddenly you go in the room and you don't know anybody there. So it's a little scary, edgy. You don't have any familiarization. Relax. Okay. There's a lot of people wanting to meditate, and there's a lot of people meditating in the world, many of whom aren't Buddhists. So you don't need to be Buddhist to do this. But we are going to focus on also some Buddhist meditations. So the patience is today it went really well. And the next day it went really well. And I'm really feeling like I've got this down, becoming a meditator. Okay. And then every session for the next week doesn't go well at all. That's meditation. That's meditation. You just keep showing up with your mind. Just keep showing up. And I've noticed even in retreat, where I have more of an opportunity to meditate throughout the day, it's focused on that, is every session, my mind, it's still my mind, it's the same mind. And every session it's different. I never know what each session will reveal. Sometimes there is a consistency built, a consistency that's developing that I feel I'm building on something, and then suddenly some distraction will arise, some problem comes up, physical, mental, and suddenly I'm not able to focus like that. Very common. And then you just keep working with it. Gently, you're working with it. You don't have a whip out and you're not judging and berating yourself that you're the only one here that can't meditate, that you're a terrible meditator. No, just you and your mind and you checking out what your mind's doing. That's really meditation. That's what it's about. Oh, wow, my mind's off the breath. Wow, I haven't even thought about the breath for a couple of seconds. I'm over here sorting out what I'm doing tomorrow. Right? That often happens in meditation. Right? So allow yourself some humor too, a lightness in this. Again, we're trying to get enlightened, not enheavied. Okay. So think about a light approach where there's light, like I'm noticing I've got a worry going on and this, but okay, hey, it'll sort, it'll be okay. I'm fine right now. And think about also the level that we are fine. We have electricity, it appears. If you're on this call, there's a couple things I'm assuming right now. And I know it's dangerous to assume, but I'm assuming that you have electricity, you have decent Wi-Fi, and you have some sort of device to be able to join the Zoom call. Well, that's a lot to have in this world. So when we have problems, and I know health issues can be serious problems, no question, but a lot of the rest of our problems can be worked out slowly when we really think of the bigger scope of the world. Meditation helps us to build that perspective. As a result of it, we're happier. Okay? So this difference again of relaxation versus meditation. Meditation allows you also through your focus, first we're going to build focus, that's one thing, concentration, but we're going to use that concentration as we also use another meditation when we analyze. There's another type of meditation, we analyze something. And so that lets us deal with our problems. Got a certain problem that keeps arising for you. Okay. Now we try to sort it off the cushion. So you got it thinking, thoughts going in your mind about your problem. Like that. You may ask friends and family, discuss with them about your problem, what's going on. Okay, that's one way to deal with problems and can be effective. And sometimes we need something stronger to go after it. So people might make lists of priorities or see a therapist or various things we do. But with meditation, you're also analyzing, allowing space to analyze those problems. And when you do analyze the problems and you come to some clarity, or you come to some small solution about something that might be possible, then focus your concentration there to deepen that clarity, to build some cohesion of what you'd like to do and what's working in your life, things like that. So that's a way and I'll talk more about this, how we combine analytical meditation, analyzing something, with concentration, with Shine, focusing on one thing, deepening that experience of what clarity, what understanding I've come to. Now I want to deepen the understanding, like that. So meditation is going to take us to a deeper level. Okay, let me find my page. I just want to find my notes that have disappeared for a moment. No, they're here. Here we go. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit now about concentration and mindfulness, and I will make time for questions. In fact, let me ask right now if there's any questions yet. Any questions so far on anything we're doing, the posture, any of the meditations that we've done? Sunny.
Now, I had a question about when you were talking about the position of the legs, and you called it a full lotus, and you said that's female, and then Vajra is I don't or was the half
Yep.
lotus? So
Okay,
I don't
so we hear about what's called, thank you. Yeah, we hear about what's called the Vajra position versus lotus position. And most people are familiar with the lotus position, which I described as you've got each leg is on the opposing thigh, like that. Okay.
Right.
But what they often do in tantric practice, if you have a male female symbol, male female deity symbolizing just certain energy like that,
Mhm.
in union, which you'll see in tantra, we misinterpret it as sex, but blatant sex. It's not about that at all. It's about transforming desire. But basically, the male sometimes will be said to be in the full Vajra position, like that. So Vajra is this indestructible nature we have of skillful means, or bodhicitta, that's often associated with the masculine, like that when we talk about method and wisdom. And lotus, in a sense, is the position the female will have embracing the male, is the lotus position. But our standard lotus position in our solitary meditation is the opposing foot on the opposing thigh. So just in case you hear the different terminology.
Thank you.
And what happens with the full lotus position in meditation, solitary meditation yourself, is when you're doing certain meditations, perhaps Shine, calm abiding, again, focusing on concentration, and when you're doing higher level practices in Tantra, completion stage practices, which are advanced, which you need a proper empowerment for, is when you're in the full lotus position, you feel this kind of lock on your system, as if everything's in the right position. Just the way the hands can rest on the heels the bottoms of the feet, and you just feel this kind of, that subtle energy system kind of merging, coming together. So I think that's another reason that's been taught as being an effective position. But again, slowly, work with it with yoga and stretching and things like that to open the hips. I know it's often easier for women than men, but some men can do it. But again, it's not essential. Just mainly the part is to find a position that you're comfortable in. Sheil, your hand is up.
Yes. I missed when you were talking about the left arm as being a left wing and right wing. Can you kindly just
Sure,
explain that? Sorry.
sure. So when you've got the hands, I'll just show you like this. Right palm is on the left,
Yes.
thumbs are touching. Okay, so there is and the thumbs are pressed together,
Yes.
forming this small triangle. And it's right against the body. I'm holding, so when I hold it against the body, not out here where I would slouch, not down in my lap with the arms dropped, it's, okay, again, it is an active posture, dynamic. So here, my arms, if you see my arms go out,
Yes.
see? So that would be where this one this is my right arm, and this would represent bodhicitta, which is my method, the way that I'd like to get enlightened with great compassion and bodhicitta, that enlightened attitude. And the left representing the wisdom, realizing emptiness, my view. And those are the two wings of the bird you need, method and wisdom, to get enlightened. So they're just representative, the posture. In Tibetan Buddhism, everything is symbolic.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot of symbolism.
Thank you.
So it's nice when you're in the posture, it just reminds your mind, oh yeah, method and wisdom. Like we'd like to slowly, especially as we get tantric initiation, to think about emptiness more. Now we can think about it on the Sutrayana approach through the discourses, to think about emptiness, of the orientation of the mind in its true nature, and also the true nature of reality. So it's very powerful for your practice to keep thinking about emptiness, reading about it in basic books, studying emptiness. If you don't know what emptiness means right now, don't worry about it. That will come later. It's not part of the meditation course, okay? And also to think about great compassion, like, are you developing the good heart along the way? Those are the fundamental components of our path, the most essential components, and all the other teachings and topics in our philosophy are all leading to get you to manifest and attain both of those.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Sure. Karen, please.
Yeah, hi. I was just curious, is there like a minimum amount of time you would say to do every day? Like if it's like 5 minutes, if it's sort of hard to motivate.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. It's a great question because, and this is something, and I'm going to rephrase your question, but Karen's saying, is there a minimal amount? Okay, let's think, let's be realistic. And what I'll say is, I was at a teaching years ago with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the LA something in LA, the sports facility at UCLA. So many people there. And there were questions at the end passed up to His Holiness on pieces of paper, and the translator would pick one and read it. And one of the ones that he picked said, "What's the easiest way to get enlightened?" And His Holiness suddenly appeared very wrathful, not happy. And then he scolded us. And he said, you Americans, you just always want it easy. And it really was a big message for me that I needed to hear at that time. I've never really chosen the easy path, but we get lazy, we think. So again, minimal amount, and I'm just picking on you. I'm not saying that's a bad question. It's a great question. Because some of us are very busy and you're trying to really figure out realistically, what can I do? So do make it realistic of what is going to be realistic to fit into your life right now, especially when it's new. And I would say, can you please try 10 or 15 minutes a day? That's what I would get started with. And that may be challenging in the beginning, but what happens is, let's think about it. First, you sit down on whatever seat you're sitting on. So you need to give yourself a minute there to compose yourself on the seat. Okay. The relaxation, honestly, I'm going to spend a minute or two, like letting it go, letting the whatever, whether I just woke up, whether I'm coming in from work, whether I'm whether I'm off a Zoom call, and I need a minute or two to like wind down on the cushion. Okay, so that's like 1 to 3 minutes right there, to be realistic. Okay, and then what I'd like to do, and I'm going to show you in a minute if we get time tonight. If not, we'll do it in the next session. It's nice. Some people like some pranayama, which is breathing exercise. Okay, and we do something, I tend to do the 9-round breathing. Really simple. It's like alternate nostril breathing, basically. Okay, and I'll explain it and show you, but there's variations. So again, that's like a minute. And I just like that to kind of clear out. Now, you don't have to do all these steps, but you do need to sit down and get the right posture, and you absolutely need to relax. Don't just launch out of the gate and then, because you're not going to have a good meditation. So give yourself some space, relax. Okay, I want to set a motivation. In my mind, I really spend some time thinking about all the beings on the planet suffering, sometimes horribly suffering, and people that I know in chronic pain right now, really struggling to like wake up to another day like that, let alone all the suffering on the planet. So I really like to take, minute or two, minimal, but you can spend, as depends how much time I have to do the meditation, to really put my mind to think about all these suffering beings. And this is why I'm meditating, is for them, to become a Buddha for them. So motivation, maybe the breathing, and then you might want to just focus on the breath for a minute or two. So we're already at like 6-7 minutes right there, maybe 8 minutes, right? Realistically. So let's say then you really want to do 5 minutes of breathing meditation. That's going to bring you up to like 12 minutes. Okay. And then we have to dedicate in the end, meaning you have motivation in the beginning, dedication, that's your bookend. You want to dedicate whatever positive energy, we're going to do it in the end this evening, whatever positive energy I've created, and I want to dedicate that positive energy or merit, those merits I want to dedicate to what? To fully waking up, becoming a Buddha. Again, why? So I can benefit all living beings. That's your basic dedication. We are going to read eventually some longer dedications in here too, that you feel like you might want to read something more. Okay, and you may want to just read a poem, something that moves you, read a prayer, something that you read in this meditation book or something like that. So I really feel like it's hard to squeeze everything in 10 minutes to get it going, but 15 minutes, I think we can find 15 minutes a day, right? And you might find 15 minutes in the morning, and you might find 15 minutes later, and maybe in the evening, maybe before you go to bed, and you start noticing a little bit more balance in your mind, or benefit and happiness, a little bit more uplifting, a little bit more, you're a little clearer in how you're dealing with people or dealing with some problems. So that gets exciting, and then you get more attracted to meditation. Does that make sense, Karen? But again, your life, all of our lives are different. So please find, how does it work? The main thing you really want to do is you want to do it. So figure out what's going to do it for you. Maybe you only have 10 minutes to just sit down on a cushion, relax, light a candle, and just watch your mind for a few minutes. That's great. That's a great way to begin. Meaning I'm just watching my mind, chasing that thought, back to the breath, back after that thought, back to the breath. Or I've got this problem circling and I'm just going to be here with the problem for a little bit. That can be helpful. Maybe that's as good as it gets for now to try it, but then slowly we want to move from that. And I'll give you an example. When I started meditating, again, I didn't really know how to meditate. And I was working for a magazine, living in San Francisco at the time. So I set up a little space to meditate. And I want to mention that to you, is you need to have a space in your home, and it doesn't have to be a room or an elaborate place, but it has to be a space that is a quiet area, ideally if you can close a door and be by yourself. Okay. It can be a corner of the room, it can be a corner of a closet, but something where it's not heavily walked over the space, the seat. You don't need any fancy cushion or altar, but if you can leave a cushion there or a seat that you feel comfortable with, it builds up some nice meditative energy over time. So see if you can explore this next week around your house if you don't already have a place of where could you do that in the house. Some people have no other option. They sit on their bed. They live in a tiny little room. I've been there, I've done that. That's okay. Can you sit in a different direction than you sleep? That's okay. Sometimes I've had to use my pillow for that's all I could do. Okay, no problem. So the fact is that you're doing it, you're sitting. So I made this little altar because I had a loft built in the room, it was a tiny little room. They had a loft, so I made this little altar. I come home from work, it was very stressful. Some people there that were very difficult, I thought. And I didn't know how to meditate, but I'd climb up in the loft and sit and slowly let the day go of all the problems. Oh, it's so difficult and I don't really like this. And the job was different than I thought. And all those thoughts spinning around. So, but what happens is after a couple of minutes, the thoughts settle down. They just start slowing down. The breathing's happening. I start deepening my inhalation, exhalation. Nice feeling, good enough, right? And from doing that, I start relaxing, naturally relaxing, just following the breath. Okay. But then there's a little bit more space for me to consider what was going on with this guy at work. So slowly some analytical meditation evolved from there without my really understanding what I was doing. And it was very effective, where I just started with think about the problem and say, okay, well, what's really the problem? And I started thinking about him. And right away I went to the negative qualities, but then I thought, well, those qualities just come from his insecurities. Just thinking this in meditation, not saying anything, just alone. And I thought, well, I also have insecurities. And they make me sometimes act like that. So then suddenly he became more human and more like me, and I could see that he wanted to be happy and he wasn't always happy like me. And he didn't want to suffer. And sometimes suffering was there like me. And suddenly he was a real person. And we had a lot more things in common. And all the antagonism towards him just kind of slowly went. And I could kind of come into work the next day with a new perspective on him. And what I actually did in the meditation was made a little deal with myself that tomorrow when I go in, I'm going to only focus on his good qualities as much as I can. That'll be my little game tomorrow for myself, for my mind, to see how that sits in my mind. So I really had this deal, and I'd go in and I'd notice the mind wanting to gravitate to something negative. Like I'd see, and I'd say, no, the deal was today only the positive. Well, he has a really nice shirt on. I find the shirt attractive, and I just saw that little presentation that he did, and he's actually pretty talented. The drawing that he did for the magnet, so I just slowly, and he started to emerge into a different person. So that's why meditation goes deeper than relaxation. And a great byproduct often is it will relax you. So are we communicating? You understand the value of it, but you have to see the value yourself. And the beginning part is getting started. That's the hardest part. And the second hardest part, once you start, is keeping it going. So this week, don't beat yourself up if you missed a day. You just start the next day. You missed 2 days, you start the next day. Okay. But just try as best as you can to show up at some point to get something a little bit. And it's scary in the beginning because you're like, well, what do I do now? And you start thinking, okay, what did she say to do? I missed that step. Doesn't matter. You just sit and you just be with your mind again. You just practice the being. Don't worry about all the thoughts and what I was supposed to do and this and the expectation. And you just sit and be and see what arises. That should be kind of the practice this week. See what arises. If you're very focused and you want to go back through the steps and you want to know about the 7-point posture and you say, you know what, I'm going to get the posture this week, then you focus on that. If you want to just get some sitting going this week, you focus on that and you just make sure you sit upright every day that you're there. When you establish a place in your house, some of you have places. The neat thing is it becomes your safe place. And wherever I've lived, the altars I've set up, like that's my space. Like I can go back there and that's where I'm going to do my work. And that's where I'm going to do some, decompression. And that's where I'm going to work with my mind when it's flustered and sad and anxious and happy, and to further enhance the happiness and to work with the negative mind states. And yet it can become a very comfortable place for you. It's where you're going to do your work. And so slowly you want to kind of create that, walk into that room. Laura, please.
Thank you. I was going to ask the time question, but maybe I'll ask a different version because I've been able to get the short meditations going, although it's hard to keep it going. But what length of time would make the Dalai Lama happy? Like, if 15 minutes is kind of a minimum, what should we aspire to?
Yes, you know what, I wouldn't get too fixated on the time. A lot of people ask me it's not a competition. It's you and your mind. You've got to figure out, and that's really a key component when you're setting up the meditation practice, is get rid of the time of how much should I be sitting. People say to me, how long do you sit? Like, how long is your practice? It doesn't matter how long I sit. It doesn't matter how long anybody else sits. So don't flaunt like I sat for an hour yesterday and I never moved. Don't, it doesn't help when people say that to each other. It's totally you and your mind. What is going to work for your mind? The main part is figure out a decent place in your house that, it's not going to be perfect. Okay, don't work for perfection. And don't look for perfection in meditation. It's not there. It's not there. It's simply just finding a comfortable spot, and you can adjust it and move your spot. If you realize there's a better spot, you're right now exploring. If you don't have a place yet, find the spot, sit down, just sit down and get going. Meaning I'm just going to start and I'm going to sit. And there were times when in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. And exactly like this thing, I'd come back from work. And let's say it was a Friday. I was going to go out on a Friday night with my friends, but I had like a couple hours before we were going out. So I came back all agitated at work because I had a fight with this guy and, whatever. And he was very intimidating, and it wasn't really a fight, but it wasn't a great interaction with him. And I had to work with him and do this project. So here I come home and I have time before, but I'm really carting home this thing from work. So there's my space. There's my safe space. So I'm like, I climb up on the loft, sit down. I didn't know what I was doing, but it just gave me that decompression time to just get together with my mind and say, hey, you're trying, Amy. You gave it your best shot. Like, you're learning, he's like this. Other people have difficulty with him. Maybe there was something I contributed that wasn't helpful. Just let the thoughts go until they kind of sift out. So I can't really say there's a time, that it's got to be like this. It's really, some days I have more time. I'm going to sit longer. Some days I don't have that much time. It's going to have to be streamlined, right? I'm going to have less time. There may be some days, because you're not familiar yet, you miss it and you go, oh, I never sat today, because it's not familiar yet. It's not familiar. So don't worry so much. It's got to be this much time, or I heard that she did this much time. And you can also find guided meditations online. And if there's something like that every day you show up for 15 minutes, it gets you listening to something for 15 minutes, doing it. There is, I'll just post in here if it's also helpful to you. My website is connected to a YouTube channel, amymiller.com. And it is, so the YouTube channel has a lot of courses by category, by topic, and some are with meditation, but also on my website under the listen and watch tabs, there are meditations. Some are courses, but some are meditations. So you could just try try one. Put it on, click the thing. It's okay to have the computer near you if you're doing a meditation like that, and click the thing and then just close your eyes and let it roll. Some of them will tell you how long it's going to be. 15, 20 minutes. You just do the meditation. Just try that. See how it works, just to get you in the habit like that. Okay, let me talk about, so thank you for the questions. I want to talk about the 9-round breathing. 9-round breathing. It's a type of pranayama practice, again. Okay. And here we go. Where is everybody? There we go. And what we do, and don't worry if you kind of say, did she start with this thing? There's variations. There's variations. So I'm going to follow Lama Yeshe's approach, which I've been really liking. And he starts by closing off a 9-round breathing. So it's like an alternate nostril breathing that I tend to do earlier in my session. And the reason is it kind of clears out the subtle energy system. So maybe I feel like it makes it a little easier to meditate. But if any time in your meditation, you're suddenly feeling like this isn't going well, and try a little 9-round breathing. This. So we start by closing off the right nostril. Okay. And Lama has us starting with an exhalation instead of an inhalation. Exhalation. You're exhaling deeply through the left nostril. And then as you're inhaling, you're going to switch, close off the left nostril, inhale deeply through the right. That's one breath. And basically when you're doing this, you want to feel first, as you do this, the first round, you're lessening anger and hostility or hatred in your mind stream. So that's something that can disturb us, agitation like that. So again, we're going to do that 3 times. Exhaling through the left nostril, inhaling through the right 3 times. Then we're going to switch, and we start by closing off the left nostril, the second round. We exhale deeply through the right. And then you close off the right nostril, inhaling deeply through the left. We'll do that 3 times, and imagine you're lessening attachment and desire from your mind stream. The last round, we're breathing in through both nostrils. We're exhaling through both nostrils. And you can also do it where you start with an exhalation and then an inhalation. And imagine we're lessening confusion and ignorance in our mind 3 times. Nine-round breathing. So if you like, this week, what's helpful to focus on, again, is just finding a space getting used to sitting, just sitting down 10 or 15 minutes, and a day or twice a day, if you feel like you've got a couple pockets to do it. Okay, what this might involve, okay, now Americans say to me, and other people say this, I'm really busy. Uh-huh. Well, I happen to know that if you have a smartphone, which many people do, the smartphone now is charting how many hours you're on the phone. Now, some of us are on our phone reading books. I have a lot of books on my phone, so I read on my phone sometimes. And sometimes you are doing something that you may consider worthwhile on the phone, talking to somebody, having a Zoom meeting, teaching somebody, whatever it is, a meditation on the phone, checking your bank statement or something, something you need to do for work and life. Okay. How much time is spent wasted on your phone, roughly, would you say, in a day? Any rough idea? I see Linda's like turned her head. She's like, well, okay. Anybody have a guess? I mean, I'm just curious. Let's be honest. You don't waste any time on your phone? Right? We get a little shy, don't we? 6 hours. Thank you, Luis. You waste about 6 hours a day on the phone. Could be. People do. Right? My phone will tell me how many hours I'm on a day. And sometimes I'm kind of like, what? What was I doing? Sometimes I'm reading. So then that's a little different from reading a book on the phone. But okay. So let's be skillful. Please don't tell me you don't have any time. So what this means, and this is something that we want, this is something people ask me a lot about their addictions, okay, with the phone, is that means you're going to need to borrow 15 to 30 minutes, maybe, from one of those wasting activities. And you want to remove that wasted time. You want to move it and transform it into something meaningful. This is a great way to do it. You have the time. It's just we're familiar with the wasted time activities. We're really familiar with those. It's really easy to go into those and just play that game or look at that space or space through this social media thing. And the next thing you know, another half an hour is gone. Like that. Okay. So let's be skillful. Get that, start to see if you can get that habit of sitting. It's going to feel really unfamiliar in the beginning if you're new. Be patient with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. This is all good for you. It's like some of you I know hate exercising. I get it. You hate, so the beginning, getting yourself to the gym and getting yourself to at your meditation space on the yoga mat and putting the yoga thing on your device because it's supposed to be good for me. But it becomes a habit. And then suddenly you realize, and afterwards you always feel good. Afterwards, you're really usually glad you did it. Okay, even when it didn't go well, it doesn't matter. Don't have this idea of it going well. There's no measurement here. It's you, meditation's about you getting to know your mind better. And this is going to sound cliched, getting to be friends with yourself and friends with your mind in all of its various applications and experiences. Okay, so that when I do something stupid, and I do, and when I make mistakes, okay, I'm much more forgiving now. And I have humor too, like, well, that was really smart, Amy. That was really a great response. Or, I don't beat myself up anymore because I've done enough meditation to see that that's not the path. That doesn't work. So that would be one thing, is finding a space. And I want to hear, like, feel free to bring, this was frustrating, I couldn't get this going. Like, bring the frustration. Don't feel too shy as if you're the only one that can't do this. We're all in the same pot here. And then if you like, let me just refresh you the meditations we did today. Scanning the body. This is all part of your materials. There's a meditation. It doesn't matter if the scanning the body meditation is different than what I led. Equally fine, doesn't matter. Scanning the body meditation. Okay. Number 2, counting the breaths. Counting the breaths. Those are 2 of the meditations here that we've actually done so far. Okay, so please just try whatever you can remember. 9-round breathing, you have an exercise. There's a few things. Don't worry about doing it all and remembering every component, but think about the 7-point posture. Relax your body through the scan. You can combine that with the relaxation if you'd like. Count your breaths if you just want to work on focus. That's really helpful to count the breaths. Okay, any last questions before we close? Okay, I want to, Marianne, is there a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask earlier. Sorry, I know it's close to the ending time. I was just wondering, do you recommend, because I've read like a few books and people say when you want to like start a new habit, if it's meditating daily, you should do it at like the set time every day. Like, do you also advise that, like to do meditating at a certain time every day? Like I have trouble personally doing that same time every day because every day is different.
Right.
But what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I would recommend, I think for the beginning, and this is something that people said, that the people that were doing better in the pandemic, and I'm just using the pandemic right now as an example, set a schedule for themselves. A lot of people were working at home. Some people that were working at home had their full workday at home, so they didn't need so much to set a schedule. But there were other people living in their workspace suddenly, and kids maybe, and other family members. And there were some people that had a lot of, that weren't working as much and had a lot of free time. So then it was easier to set a schedule. Those people did a lot better apparently in the pandemic, as far as their uplifting of their mind. So I find if you are a scheduled person, that may be easier for you to set a schedule. And you know that every day, like for me, I do prostrations every morning. And if I don't get to it in the morning, I sometimes will do it in the afternoon. Like if I had an interruption in the morning or something else that I'd scheduled, I may get to it in the afternoon, but 6 or 7 times out of 10, I won't. So for me, I've got to do it in the morning. That's the time that's going to work for me. So again, you know yourself best. And if you're somebody that just wants to pop in on certain days to find that this particular time of meditation, this time works pretty well for my meditation, or this time, if you want to do free form like that, that's okay. But I find it can be really nice to be like, this time to this time, that's my meditation time. And so you can experiment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Oh yeah, and you call it being creative. Okay, well, good luck with that, Mary. Okay. Yeah, we have excuses. And the scary thing for me as a teacher, when I'm teaching, is the excuses now that I'm hearing from people of why they're not meditating or starting a practice or getting to their practice or doing any practice. The excuses are more and more sophisticated now that I'm hearing. So that kind of happens sometimes. So we do the best we can. And just that, the thing is, you can do, please just do the best you can. That's all you can do right now. But you do need to make some effort. This is a path that takes effort. I'm sorry to inform you of that. I don't think effort's something we have a problem with, but if you really want an easy path, find another path. This is not it. But this is an incredibly rewarding path. Absolutely. So what I'd like to do in closing, and I want to thank all of you for joining, and I want to thank Sunny so much, and Shanti Davis Center. Please, let's dedicate the merit right now. Let's take whatever positive energy we've created, and I'd like to invest it in our being able to develop rich, consistent meditation practices that will be incredibly supportive for our hearts and minds, and that will also help us reach that fully enlightened state, because then we're unlimited in benefiting all living beings. So really for that purpose of helping all others, I'd like to dedicate to those with COVID to be healed instantly, and more countries to have better effects from people being vaccinated, and more freedom for people to move around, and for life to get ahead to a more decent kind of perspective for everybody to be working, and for people not to be as stressed and things like that, and for people to be well, body and mind. I'd like to dedicate to that. and the long lives of our precious teachers like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Thank you so much. And we'll add in some of the more traditional prayers as we go on, so you have prayers that you can use if you like as well. So I look forward to seeing you. If you're interested in a Death and Rebirth course, I'm doing that this weekend for Spain. I think the East Coast times correspond to something like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with breaks. And it's on my website. The links are there and things like that, I think. So if you're interested in something like that, feel free. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you so much. Please be well.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Venerable. Thank you, Amy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.